We had to slow down. Due to the coronavirus epidemic, we all had to slow down our life pace. Kids and adults, men and women, every single person, with no exceptions. But what about couples? What happened to dating couples under quarantine? In Milan, where I live, the lockdown forced them to stop and think up new ways to date. It gave them time to be creative. It forced them to be creative in order to keep in touch. And creativity is the essence of romanticism. Andrea and Lucia are both 22, and they still live with their parents. Despite the social distancing, they've been seeing each other for 2 months now. Every night, Lucia rings the bell at Andrea's house. He leans over the balcony and they talk under the glare of a streetlight. The lockdown turned them into a sort of 21st century Romeo and Juliet. The only difference here is that our Romeo stands on the balcony while the poor Juliet is alone on the street. But let's just skip this tiny detail. This scene has it all. There is creativity, there is romanticism, and it wouldn't have happened if Andrea and Lucia were not forced to slow down, rack their brains, and come up with a new way to date. Certainly, it wouldn't have happened in Milan, where slowing down is not an option. Milan is an extremely hectic city, and this has always been a reason for pride. In the early days of the epidemic, before the total lockdown was imposed, the city of Milan launched a new campaign. Hashtag Milano non si ferma, Italian for Milan does not stop, it said. Well, after a few days, the measures imposed by the government forced Milan and its residents to do it, to stop, or at least to slow down from the hustle. And obviously this applied to young couples too, who have proved to be quite creative if needed. In mid-March, I was commissioned an article that told their stories. And while interviewing some couples, I realized I admired their creativity. I liked the fact that they had used their time to think, which is not as obvious as it might seem. Andrea and Lucia were not an exception. Chiara and Marco were quite creative too. They dated in line at the supermarket. Now imagine dozens of people in gloves and face masks queuing along the pavements, waiting their turn for up to an hour at a time. And at the end of the queue, this young couple on their second date. When Chiara arrived, she told me it was the first time she had felt happy in her life to see such a long queue. Chiara's sister also had an interesting story to tell. She lives in Milan. Before the lockdown, she used to travel on business to Rome twice a week. And in Rome, she met a guy. They dated for a few months until the lockdown. Now she's stuck in Milan while he's in Rome, and every day they set their alarm at the same time and have breakfast together over video call. A bit sappy, isn't it? Now, what about me? What is my story, you might want to ask? Well, I live with my girlfriend, and no, I didn't find myself becoming a real-life Romeo during this time. I'm sorry to disappoint you. But even so, I learned something while talking to these couples. I think the lockdown showed us the positive side of a slower life pace. Maybe a bit too slow right now, but still, we are rediscovering the value of time and the privilege to think. I want to slow down. This is what I learned. And I wanted to share it with you tonight, maybe to convince myself that I will never forget it, just like I will never forget these days. Thank you.